Parents raise my rent to support golden child brother Sip's lifestyle. So I finally left. And now my parents are panicking because they can't afford the house without my rent. What's up, Reddit? I need to vent before I lose it. Fair warning, this is going to be a long one. I'm Jake, 25, and I've lived with my parents my whole life. Not because I can't manage on my own. I've got a solid job as a web developer, pay all my bills, and I'm saving to start my own gaming studio one day. Since I turned 18, I've been giving my parents $450 a month for rent. Yep, 18. While my friends were off living the college lifestyle, I was already paying to stay in my childhood bedroom. But it seemed fair enough. Housing around here is awful, and I figured helping family was better than giving money to some random landlord. Plus, my office is just 15 minutes away. The real problem isn't the rent. It's my older brother Drew, 28. He's the definition of golden child. My parents have worshipped him forever. The double standard growing up was laughable. If Drew broke something, it was accidents happen, sweetie. If I left a water ring on the coffee table, I got a 3-hour lecture on responsibility. Drew dropped out of college twice, hopped between jobs, got fired from most, and ran multiple businesses that were basically scams on Facebook. And through all of it, my parents praised him. He's just finding his path. He's so ambitious. Meanwhile, I've been steady, reliable, paying rent, helping around the house, and still invisible. About a month ago, Drew called my parents in tears, saying he and his wife Amy were between homes. Translation: broke and nowhere to go. He showed up with Amy, their kids Zoe 7 and Tyler 4, and a loud little Pomeranian named Zeus. His latest scheme, some crypto nonsense of course, had failed, and they'd been evicted. My parents didn't hesitate. Of course you can stay here. No discussion with me. No asking if I was okay with it. Just like that, the circus moved in. The house turned chaotic overnight. The kids scream from 6 a.m. until bedtime. The dog pees on everything. My shoes, my backpack, even my bed once. Nobody trains him, because he's just a puppy. My workspace was taken over too. I work from home 3 days a week, and had a setup in the spare room. But now it's filled with their stuff. So I'm coding from my cramped bedroom, while kids pound on the door, asking to play Roblox on my computer. Bathroom, always occupied. Kitchen, constant mess. Living room, covered in toys and dog hair. My things keep breaking or disappearing, but whenever I mention it, it's just the kids playing, or accidents happen. To make it worse, Drew acts bizarrely territorial whenever I talk to Amy. Yesterday, I simply asked if she was done with the toaster, and he rushed in from another room like I was flirting with her. Really? Over a toaster? And guess who's still paying $450 rent? Me. Guess how much Drew contributes? 0. At first I stayed quiet. They've got kids, they're struggling, and my mom always says family stands together. But then came the kicker. Last week, my mom pulled me aside, with that look she gets before asking for something. Jake honey, with Drew and his family here, our expenses have gone up. Groceries, utilities, everything. We were hoping you could pitch in a little more until Drew Sip's back on his feet. I asked, so you want me to pay more rent while Drew and his whole family live here for free? She gave me that tight look and said, it's not free, Jake. They're family. Family helps family. Of course. The phrase that somehow only applies to me. How much more? I asked. Just another $300 a month. So now I'd be paying $750 a month to stay in my childhood bedroom, with zero privacy, kids screaming, a dog destroying my stuff, and chaos everywhere. I told her I'd think about it, just to end the conversation, but inside I was furious. At dinner, my dad backed her up, saying we all need to do our part. Meanwhile, Drew stuffed his face and occasionally threw in, thanks for understanding, bro. Then came the cherry on top. Mom casually announced Drew and Amy were going out Friday for a date night, and I'd be watching the kids. Not asked, told. I said I had plans, even though I didn't. What plans? Mom demanded. Like I need permission to have a life. Drew chimed in. Come on, man. We haven't had a night out in forever. The kids love their Uncle Jake. Everyone stared until I caved. So Friday night, instead of playing the new game I'd been waiting for, I spent hours chasing 2 hyper kids and a dog. Drew and Amy promised they'd be back by 10. They stumbled in around midnight, clearly buzzed, no apology. And while I was busy babysitting, Zeus left a steaming pile in my room. Perfect ending. At this point, I feel like I'm losing my mind. Am I wrong to think this is completely unfair? Should I keep paying more to keep the peace? Or am I justified in feeling used? I hate conflict, but this is pushing me to the edge. I'm tired of always being the one to compromise, while Drew gets away with everything. If anyone's been through something similar, I'd love to know how you handled it. I'll update you all on what happens. Update 1. Thanks for all the responses. I didn't expect so many of you to relate. Things actually got worse, if you can believe it. After the babysitting fiasco, I was still undecided about moving out. Apartments here are insanely expensive, and I've been saving for my gaming studio. Leaving felt like letting my parents win, if that makes sense. Like I'd be admitting defeat, but then a few things happened that pushed me over the edge. The morning after babysitting, I caught Amy going through my desk drawers. Not even hiding it, just digging through my stuff. I asked, "What are you doing?" She jumped like I'd caught her stealing. I was just looking for tape. The kids want to make a craft. There's been tape in the kitchen drawer for 20 years. Well, I couldn't find it, she said defensively. Before I could respond, Drew appeared instantly, like he had radar for anyone calling out his wife. Everything cool in here? His tone was aggressive, as if I was threatening her. I said, "Your wife is going through my stuff." Drew's face hardened. She was looking for tape. Man, don't make it a big deal. I said, "It's my personal space, Drew. Would you like me going through your things?" He wrapped his arm around her and said, "That's different. We're guests." Exactly. Guests in the house I pay to live in. Drew laughed. Always about money with you, huh? Some of us have real problems. I almost lost it, but walked away instead. Later that night, I overheard Drew talking to my parents. I know eavesdropping isn't great, but I stopped when I heard my name. "Jake's always been so self-centered," Drew was saying. "Would it kill him to help out the family for once? Self-centered? I've paid rent for 7 years while he hasn't given a dime." Then my mom said, "I know, honey, he just doesn't understand what it's like for you with kids, but he agreed to pay extra rent, so that helps." What? I never agreed. I said I'd think about it. Drew went on, complaining that I had money saved for my stupid gaming company while he could barely afford clothes for the kids. Maybe he'd have money if he hadn't blown it on crypto. Then he whispered that I made Amy uncomfortable, that she didn't like being alone with me. I nearly choked. She's the one digging through my things, and I avoid them as much as possible. The next morning, my mom mentioned she'd be expecting my first higher rent payment Friday. I opened my mouth to argue, but my dad jumped in. "We appreciate you helping out, son. Family first, right?" They were cornering me, and I knew from experience I couldn't win. I just nodded. Then Mom casually added, "Oh, and Drew and Amy need someone to watch the kids this weekend. They've got a wedding." I asked how long. "Just Saturday through Sunday evening," she said. Like that was nothing. "I can't," I said. "I've got work." "You can do your computer stuff anytime," Mom replied. "The wedding's only on this date." Drew added, "Don't be selfish, bro. It's not like you have real plans. How would he even know? And why is their social life my responsibility?" I lied and said I was helping my buddy move. Mom pushed. "Can't you reschedule?" "No. He already rented the truck." Mom gave me a look that could melt steel. Drew shook his head like I'd disappointed him. Amy muttered something under her breath. But what really pushed me over the edge happened a few days later. I came home to find Zeus had chewed through my expensive gaming headset, completely destroyed. That headset cost me $200. When I confronted Drew, he just shrugged. "It's Sep's only a headset, man. He Sep's a puppy. What do you expect?" I told him, "I expect you to control your dog and replace the things he ruins." His response? "We don't have money for fancy toys like that. If it matters so much, buy another one, or better yet, grow up and stop gaming all the time." This coming from a 28-year-old who lost all his savings to a crypto scam. But the real breaking point. I overheard Drew and my mom talking about my savings account. They were discussing how I should hand over some of it to help the family get through tough times. That was it. The line had been crossed. They were openly plotting to guilt me into giving away money I'd saved for years. I'd worked overtime, skipped vacations, and lived frugally to build those savings. And now they wanted it to support Drew's consequence-free lifestyle. I went straight to my room, opened my laptop, and pulled up apartment listings. I didn't know how I'd afford it, or where exactly I'd land, but one thing was clear. I could not stay another month in that house. To them, I was nothing but an ATM. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay there staring at the ceiling, running through every possible option. Should I confront them again? Try to reason? Give in and pay more just to keep the peace? Every choice felt like a loss. Around 3 a.m., bless, I texted my old friend Chris, the same guy I'd used as an excuse before. We were close in high school, but drifted apart after graduation. We still grab beers sometimes, but that's about it. I texted, "Hey man, weird question. Do you know anyone looking for a roommate? I need out of my parents' cessed place ASAP." Didn't expect a reply until morning, but he wrote back right away. Crazy timing. "My roommate just told me he's moving in with his girlfriend next month." "Are you serious?" I asked. "Dead serious," he said. "If you spare interested, let's talk tomorrow." It felt like the universe had finally thrown me a lifeline. The next day we met up after work. His apartment wasn't fancy, a simple 2-bedroom in a decent part of town about 20 minutes from my job. But it was clean, quiet, and most importantly, family-free. His roommate was moving out in 3 weeks. Rent would be $575 plus utilities, split evenly. That was a little more than what I was paying before, but less than the $750 my parents wanted now. And without the chaos, it was a no-brainer. I agreed on the spot. We shook hands, decided to finalize everything over the weekend, and suddenly, I had a plan. 3 weeks to get out without triggering a family war. I knew if I told my parents, they'd use every tactic, guilt, anger, fake concern, to keep me there, probably while squeezing more money out of me. So I went into stealth mode. Operation GTFO was on. Step 1. Secure my savings. I called my bank, changed all my passwords and security questions, and switched to paperless statements. If they were seriously considering going after my account, I wasn't taking chances. Step 2. Moving out quietly. I couldn't just haul everything out at once without raising alarms, so I started small. Books, seasonal clothes, extra computer gear, things no one would notice right away. Each day I'd load a box into my car before work and drop it at Chris's place. His roommate was cool with me storing stuff there until he left. Finally, some decent people in my life. Keeping a straight face at home was the hardest part, pretending everything was normal when all I wanted to do was call them out for their nonsense. Drew strutted around like he owned the place, letting his kids and dog wreck the house. Speaking of Zeus, the dog nearly ruined everything by barking whenever I moved stuff. I started carrying treats just to keep him quiet. Felt like I was running a heist. One close call, Zoe, my 7-year-old niece, caught me loading a box into my car. "What's in the box, Uncle Jake?" she asked, sneaking up like something out of a horror movie. My heart nearly stopped. I told her, "Just some old stuff I'm donating." She wanted to see, and I brushed her off with boring grown-up papers and books. She asked if she could help, but I told her not today. I had to get to work. Luckily, she lost interest fast. Meanwhile, my parents kept pushing about the rent. Mom would drop hints about bills, and Dad gave me the silent treatment when I didn't hand over more money. And Drew, this guy, actually lectured me about financial responsibility one night. Sprawled on the couch, he said, "When you have a family someday, you'll understand you have to make sacrifices." The irony was unreal. Advice from someone freeloading at 28. I shot back, "That's rich, coming from you." He tried defending himself with the usual excuse. "Crypto is volatile." I reminded him he fell for it twice. He got mad and stormed off. Small victory. Then came a family meeting. Mom called us all to the living room. Me, Dad, Drew, and Amy. The kids were asleep. She said we needed to reconsider sleeping arrangements. My gut told me this was bad. With the kids getting older, they need more space, she said. We stir thinking they should take your room. Jake, you could move into the den downstairs. The den is basically a storage room with no windows, and a futon older than me, right next to the laundry, so you'd hear machines all night. I said absolutely not. Before I could stop myself, they all looked shocked, like I was unreasonable for refusing. Mom said, "It's set's just temporary, until Drew and Amy are back on their feet." I asked, "And when will that be?" They said been here a month and made zero progress. I meant applying for jobs, Drew protested. Really? Because all I see is you playing Xbox and complaining. Boys, enough. Mom cut in. Jake, it would really help the family if... No, I interrupted. I pay rent for my room. I set not moving into the basement so Drew Sep's kids can have it. End of discussion. The room went silent. Dad looked uncomfortable. Mom did her near-tears routine, and Drew glared like I Sept kicked his dog. Amy finally spoke. "It's Sept's incredibly selfish. Those poor children crammed in one room while you take up all that space." I almost laughed. Selfish? Moving your whole family into someone else, Sip's home, and demanding more is what Sip's selfish. She gasped. Drew stood up and got in my face. "Don't talk to my wife like that." I stood 2 taller than him, and he backed down quickly. "This is why the kids don't like being around you," he muttered, which was news, since they never left me alone. Looking around at their angry faces, I realized nothing would ever change. They set him taking until there was nothing left. "I set them going to bed," I said. "And to be clear, I set them not moving rooms. I set them not giving up my space." End of discussion. As I walked out, I heard Amy whisper, "See? I told you Sep's always been the problem." That night, I texted Chris asking if I could move in earlier, even crash on his couch until the room was ready. He said yes. Operation GTFO entered its final phase. No more Mr. Nice Guy. I'd signed the lease, packed my essentials, and just waited for Chris to give me the green light. I knew it would cause drama, but I didn't care anymore. I needed to put myself first, for once. Finally, I'd have a chance to focus on my goals without being buried under their chaos. Wish me luck, Reddit. I'll keep you posted. Update 2. Hey Reddit, thanks for the support. Honestly, your comments are the only thing keeping me sane. So after the bedroom blow-up, things at home got tense. My parents gave me the silent treatment, which honestly wasn't bad. Drew stomped around like a sulking kid, and Amy tossed passive-aggressive comments whenever I was near. Stuff like, "Some people just don't understand family." I ignored it and kept planning my escape. Chris texted to say I could move in that weekend. His roommate was fine with me using the living room until he left. This guy, a stranger, showed me more empathy than my own family. Pretty sad. Friday night, I played it cool, ate dinner, even offered to do the dishes. Mom looked suspicious, but I said I was in a good mood from work. They bought it. After everyone went to bed, I packed the last essentials: laptop, clothes, chargers, toiletries. Most of my other stuff was already out. I set my alarm for 5 a.m. to load my car before anyone woke. Drew's crew never gets up before 9 on weekends, and my parents usually stir around 7:30. Of course, Zeus nearly ruined everything. When my alarm went off, I started carrying bags quietly to the car. The dog went nuts, barking like crazy. I panicked, threw him a treat. He ate it and kept barking, desperate. I had to lock him in the bathroom with another snack. Not my proudest moment, but it worked. I loaded the car fast, shaking from the cold and the adrenaline. Finally, I stood in my old room, staring at the empty shelves. I'd lived there most of my life, had some good memories before it all went bad. For a moment I felt doubt. Was I making a mistake leaving like this? Then Zeus barked again from the bathroom, and Drew yelled, "Someone shut that dog up." That doubt disappeared instantly. No regrets. I considered leaving a note, but what could I say that hadn't already been said? So, I grabbed my keys, took one final glance around, and walked out. Driving away from my parents' house at sunrise felt surreal, almost like a scene from some coming-of-age film. I half expected dramatic background music, but instead, I turned up some Metallica and pressed the gas. I reached Chris's place around 6 in the morning. He was still asleep, so I sat in my car scrolling through my phone. I switched it to silent, knowing it wouldn't be long before my family noticed I was gone, and the calls and messages started piling up. Around 7:30, Chris woke up and helped me carry my stuff inside. His apartment was modest: small kitchen, a decent living room, 2 bedrooms, and a bathroom, but it was quiet. No screaming kids, no barking dogs, just silence. "Make yourself at home," Chris said, pointing to the couch. Jim's room would be free in a couple of weeks, but for now, the couch was mine. I collapsed and slept 4 straight hours, the best sleep I'd had in months, lumpy cushions and all. When I finally checked my phone, I wasn't surprised. 8 missed calls from Mom, 3 from Dad, 2 from Drew, surprising he even bothered, and dozens of texts. Mom's messages ranged from "Jake, where are you?" to "I can't believe you do this to us." Dad said, "Your mother is upset. Call home." Drew's was just, "Wow, real mature, bro." Zarina chimed in with, "Mom's crying. Hope you're happy. Right on schedule. Guilt trip central." I shut the phone off and helped Chris set up his new gaming system. The family drama could wait. By 6 p.m., I finally turned my phone back on and called Mom. I figured I owed her at least that much, even if she's been unfair to me. She answered on the first ring. "Jake, where are you?" "I moved out," I said evenly. "I said I'm staying with a friend." "You moved out without telling anyone? How could you do this to us?" Her voice was so loud, I had to hold the phone away. "I tried talking to you about how unfair things were, but no one listened. So I left." She accused me of disappearing without warning, said they'd been calling hospitals. The guilt came rolling in as expected. "Mom, I set'm an adult. I don't need permission to move out. And I set'm fine. This is about the rent, is set it? Or the bedroom. We could have worked something out if you had just talked to us instead of running away." I nearly laughed. "I did talk to you multiple times, but you kept pushing for more money, more space, more sacrifices, while Drew contributed nothing. Your brother has children, Jake. He's struggling. I'm sorry about that, but his family isn't my responsibility. I been paying rent for 7 years while he hasn't paid a dime. That isn't fair, and you know it." "Life isn't fair," she shot back. "Family helps family." "Exactly, but it has to go both ways. I can be the only one giving while everyone else takes." She broke down crying, which nearly shattered my resolve, It always has. But I held my ground. I told her I wasn't coming back, that I'd already signed a lease with Chris and would pick up my things next weekend. She hit me with the classic, "We're disappointed." I countered that I was disappointed too, for always putting Drew first. Then I ended the call. It needed to be said. Later that night, Drew texted, "Thanks for bailing and leaving us to deal with Mom Sip's breakdown. Real stand-up, bro." I shot back, "Thanks for moving your whole family in and expecting me to pay for it. Real stand-up, bro." Dad kept sending messages too, threats mixed with guilt trips, claiming he couldn't cover the rent alone. But I never agreed to be a second parent. Despite the drama, I felt I'd made the right call. My new place was calm, Chris was easy to live with, and I could finally focus on work and school without constant interruptions. It wasn't easy cutting ties, but I knew it was necessary. I couldn't keep sacrificing my future for people who didn't value me. For the first time in years, I felt hopeful. Thanks to everyone who followed my story. I promised I'd share one final update. Final update. Hey again. It's been a while. I figured I owed you all closure on how things turned out. It's been a few weeks since I moved out, and honestly, life has been great. Living with Chris has gone better than I expected. We split bills, respect each other's space, and live without drama. After years of family chaos, it's been like a vacation for my mental health. My room is set up how I want. I can leave my laptop out without worrying about kids messing with it. I can sleep in on weekends without being woken by noise. I can cook without someone criticizing my meals or stealing my leftovers. It's the small things that make the biggest difference. Work has improved too. Without constant stress at home, I've been more productive. I've even been putting time into game development again. Not a huge project yet, but it feels good to be creating instead of just talking about it. As for my family, it's complicated. 2 weeks after moving out, I went back to grab the rest of my things. It was awkward. Mom looked drained, still in the same old robe. Dad barely spoke, drifting around like a ghost. The house felt heavy, like the life had been sucked out of it. Chris came to help me move quickly, but Mom cornered me in my old room. "You could talk to us," she said, voice trembling. "You didn't have to leave like that." "I did try to talk to you," I reminded her. "You chose not to listen." She cried again, which stung despite everything. Dad stood in the doorway, looking older than I'd ever seen him. They didn't directly ask me to come back, but the silence carried the weight of the question. A few days later, Dad called and asked to meet for coffee. Against my better judgment, I agreed. The moment he sat down, I knew it was a setup. He spoke about how Mom was falling apart and how the family was unraveling without me. I almost felt guilty until he revealed the real reason. "Jake, we set her short on the mortgage this month," he said. "We need your help." "So you want me to pay for a house I don't even live in anymore?" "Not rent," he argued quickly. "Just helping family during a rough patch. Once Drew gets on his feet." "Dad, I left because you were taking advantage of me while Drew freeloaded, and now you are asking me to keep paying when I don't live there." "It's about responsibility. Family obligations," he insisted. "What about Drew Sep's obligations?" I countered. "Why isn't Sep's stepping up? Drew has a family. Sep's struggling. Sep's been struggling for years." Minute done covering his lifestyle. Then came the bombshell. "We need $800 this month, or we might lose the house." That was more than I paid when I lived there. I laughed, not my proudest moment, but I couldn't help it. "No, Dad, not happening. Drew needs to get a job, and you both need to stop enabling him." He left defeated. I felt torn, part guilt, part anger, but deep down I knew it was just manipulation. The next day, Drew sent threatening texts. "Way to abandon the family. You got do us. Mom sick because of you. If Dad loses his job, don't be surprised when I show up." I blocked him. Then Amy tried, guilt-tripping me with long messages about how the kids missed me and how they might have to move to a dangerous area if evicted. Maybe just help out temporarily for the kids, she suggested. I replied, strange how no one cared about my finances when I was paying $450 rent while Drew lived free. Not my problem anymore. She called me selfish. Blocked. Soon my aunt called, repeating the same script. My parents had spread the story that I'd abandoned them and left them near homelessness. They left out the fact I'd been paying rent for years while Drew contributed nothing. The final straw? I learned from a friend that they weren't even struggling. Dad had gotten a bonus the month I moved out, though we might lose the house. Line was just another guilt tactic. That's when I went full no contact. Blocked every number, email, social media account, even told my job not to pass calls from them. For 2 weeks, the silence was bliss. Then came the flying monkeys, family, friends, distant relatives, even people from Mom's church, all pressuring me to make peace. I ignored most, but my cousin Mark gave me the inside scoop. Turns out Drew and Amy weren't paying a dime. My parents finally gave Drew an ultimatum: get a job or move out. He's panicking, since his so-called crypto expertise isn't exactly employable. And then came the kicker. Mom admitted they never needed my money for the mortgage. They'd been secretly covering Drew's gambling debts. Gambling with 2 kids. Unbelievable. So I'm done. No contact with my parents, Drew or Amy. I still send birthday cards to the kids. They're innocent in all this, but otherwise that bridge is gone. And honestly, I've never been happier. I'm focused on work, pursuing game development, and even started dating someone I met at a programming meetup. If you're in a similar situation, here's what I've learned. Cutting people off isn't just an option, it's survival. Especially with family, because they know exactly how to pull your strings. Boundaries mean nothing if they're not respected. Sometimes you need a wall, not a line. Thanks to everyone who encouraged me to finally put myself first. And for those asking, yes, I'm working on a small indie puzzle game. Nothing groundbreaking, but it's fun, and I'm learning a lot. Dreams don't expire,